Do you think Jeffrey Epstein was a spy?
I believe very strongly he was a spy.
A CIA agent broke his silence and said, Jeffrey Epstein was a spy, an intelligence asset recruited, funded, and protected by a foreign government. And the man making this claim has the credentials to back it up. His name is John Kiriakou. And he says Epstein fits a pattern they literally teach at the CIA. A pattern so specific that Epstein is the textbook example they use in training. Who were Jeffrey Epstein's hidden handlers, and why did it take Kiriakou to expose them? 15 years inside the CIA, John Kiriakou understood exactly how intelligence services build, fund, and protect their most valuable assets. So when a man like that makes a claim about Jeffrey Epstein, it carries weight. Epstein was a spy, working for a foreign government. When asked who Epstein was working for, Kiriakou said it clearly: the Israelis. I'm confident it was the Israelis. Kiriakou pointed to something specific, something taught inside the CIA itself, something the intelligence community, in his words, really doesn't like to talk about. Not because the evidence is weak, but because the accusation points directly at Israel and the sensitivity of the U.S. Israel relationship makes it a subject no one in intelligence wants to touch. It's called an access agent. A foreign intelligence service wants close and information from a former president, the CEO of the biggest company in the world, a member of the British royal family. Recruiting them directly? Impossible. Kiriakou named them. Bill Clinton, Bill Gates, Prince Andrew, all connected to Epstein, all untouchable. So instead, find someone who already sits at their dinner table, already flies with them, vacations with them, and recruit that person. But that person needs resources, wealth, status, a private island where the rules disappear, a jet that picks up anyone, anywhere. So the intelligence service funds them, not as a salary, as operational infrastructure. Then comes the real purpose. Once the targets are comfortable, compromising situations get engineered, young women, and everything gets filmed. Every room, every angle. Kiriakou calls it kompromat. It never needs to be used. The threat is enough. And only 2 intelligence services on Earth routinely use this kind of extortion: the Russians and the Israelis. Kiriakou said it plainly on Piers Morgan Uncensored. One day earlier, the FBI and Department of Justice had closed the book. Epstein was not murdered, had no blackmail operation, and kept no client list. The next day, a former CIA officer opened it back up. Epstein was a textbook example of an access agent. And that is something the intelligence community does not want to discuss. Unlimited money, a fortune with no traceable source, and a seat at the table with presidents, princes, and billionaires. As a business, none of it makes sense. As an intelligence operation, every single piece falls into place. But an intelligence operation needs proof. It needs cameras and recordings. So what did investigators actually find inside Epstein's properties? 1996. Maria Farmer walked into Epstein's Manhattan townhouse. Behind a limestone wall, a hidden door. Inside, television, monitors, live feeds, every room. Palm Beach police raided his Florida home. 2 hidden cameras, disguised as clocks, recording directly to his computer. Emails released by the Department of Justice. Epstein writes to his pilot, Larry Vysotsky, "Let's get 3 motion-detected hidden cameras that record." Vysotsky replies, "I already purchased 2 from the spy store in Fort Lauderdale. I'm installing them into Kleenex boxes now." Same day, another email. Name redacted. Words not, "The Russians may come in handy." Ghislaine Maxwell told a friend the island was completely wired for video. She called it an insurance policy. Inside Epstein's safe, compact discs. Handwritten labels, names of young women paired with powerful men. Virginia Giuffre wrote in her diary that Epstein recorded her abuse, specifically for blackmail. Kiriakou said it simply, why would he care what was going on unless it was to use that information against people? The cameras were the operation. But an operation needs a handler. That handler has a name. Robert Maxwell, British media tycoon, one of the most powerful publishers in Europe, and, according to multiple intelligence sources, a longtime agent of Israel's Mossad. Ari Ben-Menashe, a former officer in Israeli military intelligence, publicly claimed Maxwell had worked for Mossad for decades. He alleged Maxwell tipped off the Israeli embassy about Mordecai Vanunu, the man who exposed Israel's nuclear program, leading to his kidnapping. November 5, 1991. Maxwell was found floating dead in the Atlantic, fallen from his yacht, named the Lady Ghislaine, after his youngest daughter. Here's what tells the story. Maxwell was buried on Jerusalem's Mount of Olives, his funeral attended by the Israeli president, the prime minister, and 6 heads of Israeli intelligence, for a newspaper publisher. In Epstein's own emails released by the DOJ, he claimed Maxwell had threatened Mossad, demanding £400 million to save his empire. Or he would, Epstein's words, expose all he had done for them. Enter Ghislaine, Maxwell's youngest child. After her father's death, she moved to New York, became romantically involved with Epstein, became his chief recruiter, convicted of sex trafficking in December 2021. Ben-Menashe claimed he met both Epstein and Ghislaine in the 1980s, already working with Israeli intelligence. Stephen Hoffenberg, Epstein's former business partner, said Epstein personally admitted Mossad connections before Hoffenberg's death in 2022. Ghislaine was the bridge, the daughter of a confirmed intelligence asset, the link between her father's world and Epstein's operation. Then, something changed everything. October 2024. A Palestinian hacking group called Handala released over 100,000 emails from the inbox of former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak. Journalists Ryan Grimm and Murtaza Hussein at Dropsite News began reading. What they found was correspondence. Operational, detailed, spanning years. Between 2013 and 2016, Barak and Epstein exchanged emails nearly every day. Epstein was brokering intelligence deals for Israel, a security agreement with Mongolia, surveillance technology sold to Côte d'Ivoire, a back channel between Israel and Russia during the Syrian civil war. In one email, Epstein told Barak to wait before notifying number 1. In Israeli intelligence circles, number 1 is the head of Mossad. Then came the most explosive detail. Yoni Koren, a senior Israeli military intelligence officer, lieutenant colonel in reserve duty, Barak's longtime aide, stayed at Epstein's Manhattan apartment on at least 3 occasions. February 2013, October 2014, September 2015, weeks at a time, conducting what appeared to be official intelligence business, an active Israeli intelligence officer, living in Epstein's apartment, running operations out of it. And the dynamic was unexpected. It was Barak chasing Epstein, not the other way around. At times, it looked like Mossad was working for Epstein. Israeli officials denied everything. Netanyahu said Epstein's relationship with Barak proves the opposite. Former Mossad director Yossi Cohen said Epstein had absolutely nothing to do with the agency. But the emails existed, in Barak's own inbox, in Epstein's own calendar. And they raised the hardest question of all. If Epstein was this deeply connected to intelligence, how did he get the most lenient plea deal in modern American legal history? 2006, Palm Beach, Florida. A parent reported that Jeffrey Epstein had sexually abused her 14-year-old daughter. Police investigated. The FBI took over. Operation Leap Year. 36 victims identified. A 53-page federal indictment drafted. the kind that carries a life sentence. And then, it vanished. Alexander Acosta, U.S., attorney for the Southern District of Florida, brokered what a federal judge later called a national disgrace. Epstein pleaded guilty to one state charge, got 18 months in a minimum security county jail, was allowed to leave for 12 hours a day on work release, and the deal granted immunity to every co-conspirator, named and unnamed. The victims were never told. A violation of federal law. Kiriakou pointed directly at this deal. This is a guy convicted of child sex crimes, and he gets 6 months of house arrest with an ankle bracelet. There are mandatory minimums in this country. 5-year minimum, first offense. The quote that haunts this story came later. When Acosta was being vetted for Secretary of Labor under Trump, journalist Vicky Ward reported his alleged response. "I was told Epstein belonged to intelligence, and to leave it alone." Acosta later denied this under oath. But when asked directly if foreign intelligence agencies like Mossad were involved, he said, "If you want to know that, you need to ask the intelligence community." Weeks later, newly released FBI documents from the Los Angeles field office revealed that a confidential informant had told the Bureau they were convinced Epstein was a co-opted Mossad agent who had been trained as a spy. By November 2025, a University of Maryland poll found that only 6% of Americans believed Epstein was unconnected to foreign intelligence.
New CNN poll shows just 6% are satisfied with what the Justice Department has made public.
August 10th, 2019. Jeffrey Epstein found dead in his cell. Official ruling: suicide by hanging. Broken hyoid bone, and independent pathologists said it was far more consistent with homicide. Both guards asleep, both falsified records. Surveillance cameras malfunctioned. And in June 2024, the FBI destroyed the master surveillance archive. 2 men tied to intelligence, Maxwell and Epstein, both dead before they could testify. November 18th, 2025. The House passed the Epstein Files Transparency Act 427-1. Trump signed it the next day. Millions of pages released, but 200,000 redacted.
Releasing more than 3 million pages of documents related to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein.
300 gigabytes of data still in FBI possession. Congressman Ro Khanna, release the full files. Stop protecting predators. The media covered Epstein's famous friends endlessly. The intelligence angle, ignored. Dropsite News asked, why has the rest of the media all of a sudden lost its reporting capacity? Here's what is known. Hidden cameras in every property. An Israeli intelligence officer living in his apartment. Leaked emails showing him brokering deals for Mossad. A former prime minister emailing him daily. The prosecutor who let him walk allegedly said he belonged to intelligence. And he died in federal custody before he could testify, under circumstances that remain disputed. Here's what remains hidden. 300 gigabytes of data still in FBI possession. What was on the compact discs in his safe. And who, specifically, gave the orders that protected him for decades. John Kiriakou said it clearly. On the Diary of a CEO. On Piers Morgan. On every platform that would listen. If you had to bet everything you have on either him being a spy or not a spy, what would you bet on? He was a spy. I feel very confident in that assessment. The files are out, the redactions remain, and somewhere in those servers sits the answer to the question that will not go away. Jeffrey Epstein didn't build this operation alone. Someone built it for him. And that someone is still out there.